My name is Miles Harwood, and I'm 45 years old. I analyze financial portfolios for a living, which means I'm really good at spotting when the numbers don't add up. Too bad it took me 3 months to notice my wife was cooking the books on our marriage. Financial stability used to be the most attractive thing about me. At least, that's what Lila told me when we got married 8 years ago. "You're so reliable, Miles," she'd say, running her fingers through my thinning hair. "I never have to worry about anything with you." Turns out, she was right about that. She never had to worry about getting caught. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It started with the little things. Text messages that made her smile in ways I hadn't seen in years. Late-night phone calls she'd take in the bathroom, whispering like she was planning a surprise party. Business trips that seemed to multiply faster than our credit card bills. "Where are you going this time?" I asked one Tuesday morning, watching her pack another suitcase. "Portland," she said without looking up. "Big client meeting. You know how it is." I did know how it was. Lila worked as a travel consultant for high-end clients. Her job required trips, networking events, and long hours. It was perfectly reasonable, perfectly logical. The kind of explanation that would satisfy any reasonable husband. Problem was, I'd stopped being reasonable about 3 weeks earlier when I found the hotel receipt in her jeans pocket, the one with CH written in the corner and a heart drawn next to it. "How long will you be gone?" I asked, stirring my coffee. "Just 2 days, maybe 3 if the meetings run long." I nodded and kissed her goodbye, tasting mint and lies on her lips. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into our joint credit card account and checked her recent transactions. Portland, my ass. She'd been in Chicago, at the Fairmont Hotel, for 3 nights. The financial analyst in me started building a spreadsheet. Dates, locations, expenses. The pattern emerged like a bad rash. Every business trip in the last 3 months had involved unexplained charges. Room service for 2, expensive dinners, spa treatments she never mentioned. But it was the lingerie receipt that really got my attention. Victoria's Secret, purchased the day before her last trip. I'd never seen whatever she bought. Hell, I hadn't seen Lila in anything but flannel pajamas for the past 6 months. "Miles, you're being paranoid," I told myself, staring at the computer screen. "She's probably just treating herself." Except the receipt was for 2 sets of everything. Size medium for her, size large for someone else. That evening, Lila's best friend Vera came over for their weekly wine night. I usually made myself scarce during these sessions, but tonight I lingered in the kitchen, pretending to organize the pantry while they gossiped in the living room. "So, how was Chicago?" Vera asked, her voice carrying that conspiratorial tone women use when they're about to share secrets. "Amazing," Lila giggled. "God, Vera, you should see him. He's still got those shoulders from high school and those hands. I can't believe you reconnected after all these years. What are the odds?" "I know, right? When Conrad messaged me on Facebook, I thought it was just innocent catching up. But then we started talking every day, and all those old feelings just came rushing back." Conrad. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Conrad Hale, Lila's high school boyfriend, the guy she used to go on and on about during our early dating days. The football player with the perfect smile and the motorcycle. The one who got away before she settled down with me. "Are you going to tell Miles?" Vera asked. There was a long pause. I held my breath, straining to hear. "I don't know," Lila finally said. "I mean, what's the point? Miles is... Miles. He's safe and predictable and boring. Conrad makes me feel alive again, like I'm 22 and anything is possible. But honey, you're married. To a man who gets excited about quarterly earnings reports. When was the last time Miles surprised me? When was the last time he made me feel beautiful?" I wanted to storm in there and defend myself. List all the ways I'd tried to keep our marriage interesting. The surprise weekend trips she'd been too tired for, the romantic dinners she'd spent checking her phone, the anniversary gifts she'd thanked me for and then forgotten in drawers. Instead, I stood there like an idiot, listening to my wife plan my betrayal. "So what's the plan?" Vera asked. "I'm seeing him again next weekend. Miles thinks I'm going to a conference in Denver." "This is so exciting. It's like a movie." "Yeah," I thought. A really shitty movie where the husband gets screwed over by his wife and her enabling best friend. I spent the next hour in my home office, staring at spreadsheets and trying to process what I'd heard. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, demand explanations, fight for my marriage like they do in the movies. But the analytical part of my brain, the part that had kept me employed for 20 years, was already 3 steps ahead. If Lila wanted to play games, I'd show her what happened when you tried to outsmart someone who made his living reading between the lines. The next morning, I woke up early and made breakfast. Pancakes with fresh berries, the way Lila liked them. I even squeezed fresh orange juice. "What's the occasion?" she asked, sliding into her chair with a suspicious smile. "Can't a man make breakfast for his beautiful wife?" She laughed, but there was something nervous in it. "You're being weird, Miles." "Good weird or bad weird?" "Jury's still out." We ate in comfortable silence, just like we had thousands of times before. Except now I was studying her face, looking for tells. The way she avoided eye contact when she lied. How she touched her neck when she felt guilty. The little smile that played at the corners of her mouth when she was thinking about him. "I might have to travel more in the coming months," she said, cutting into her pancakes. "We're expanding into some new markets." "That's great, honey. More travel means more commissions, right?" "Exactly." She looked relieved that I was being so understanding. "I know it's hard on you being alone so much." "I'll manage," I said, refilling her coffee cup. "I always do." After she left for work, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, thinking. 20 years of marriage, 8 years with Lila, 12 with my first wife who'd left me for her personal trainer. Apparently I had a type. Women who found me useful until something better came along. But this time was going to be different. This time I wasn't going to be the sad, surprised husband who never saw it coming. This time I was going to be ready. I opened my laptop and started a new spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, location. Column C, evidence. Column D, action items. If Lila wanted to play house with her high school sweetheart, that was her choice. But she was going to learn that boring, predictable Miles had a few surprises of his own. The game was on. 3 days later, I discovered that Lila's tablet was synced to our home Wi-Fi, which meant every message she sent automatically backed up to our shared cloud storage. She'd probably forgotten about this little detail when she set up her devices 2 years ago. I definitely hadn't forgotten. Sitting in my office during lunch break, I scrolled through months of messages between my wife and Conrad Hale. It was like reading a romance novel written by someone with no imagination and terrible grammar. "Can't wait to see you again," Conrad had written. "These 3 weeks have been torture." "I know, baby. I keep thinking about Chicago, about how good it felt to be bad." "Your husband doesn't suspect anything?" "Miles, please, he's too busy with his spreadsheets to notice I exist. I could probably move you into the guest bedroom and he'd think you were a new tax deduction." I had to admit, that one stung a little. The messages got steamier from there. Detailed descriptions of hotel room activities that made me glad I was reading this alone. Plans for future meetings, pet names that made me want to throw my phone across the room. But it was the practical stuff that really got my attention. They weren't just having an affair, they were planning a future together. "I looked at some apartments downtown," Conrad had written. "There's a nice 2-bedroom with a view of the river, perfect for when you're ready to make the jump." "Soon, baby. I just need to figure out the finances. Miles handles all our money stuff." "Don't worry about that. My gym is doing great. and I've got some investments paying off. I can take care of you. His gym. I did a quick internet search and found Conrad's Fitness on the east side of town. The website showed a good-looking guy in his mid-40s with graying temples and arms like tree trunks, the kind of guy who probably called women sweetheart and actually got away with it. His bio said he'd been a high school football star who'd gotten a scholarship to state before a knee injury ended his college career. Now he owned a successful gym and specialized in helping people rediscover their inner athlete. Apparently, he'd helped my wife rediscover her inner slut. I spent the rest of my lunch break researching Conrad Hale, social media profiles, business records, property ownership. The guy wasn't exactly a financial genius. His gym had decent reviews, but mediocre profits. He lived in a rental apartment and drove a BMW that was probably financed up to its sunroof. But he did have one thing I didn't: a girlfriend named Ava Morrison, who'd been posting loved-up photos of them together for the past 2 years. Ava was a real estate agent with sharp eyes and an expensive smile. Her Instagram was full of professional headshots and motivational quotes about knowing your worth and never settling for less than you deserve. I wondered how she'd feel about her boyfriend's extracurricular activities. That evening, Lila came home late from work, claiming she'd had dinner with a client. She kissed me on the cheek and headed straight for the shower, humming under her breath. "Good day?" I asked when she emerged in her flannel pajamas. "The best," she said, and I could see it was true. Her skin was glowing, her eyes bright. She looked happier than she had in months. It would have been heartbreaking if I hadn't already read her messages about how amazing Conrad was with his hands. "I'm thinking of taking a long weekend soon," she said, climbing into bed beside me. "Maybe go visit my sister in Seattle." Lila's sister lived in Phoenix. She'd moved there 5 years ago, and we'd visited her just last Christmas. "That sounds nice," I said. "When were you thinking?" "Next weekend, maybe. I could use some girl time." I nodded and kissed her goodnight, tasting toothpaste and more lies. The next morning, after Lila left for work, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to our bank, where I quietly moved half our savings into a new account in my name only. The second was to our credit card company, where I reported Lila's card as potentially compromised and requested it be frozen pending investigation. Then I sent Ava Morrison a message through Instagram. "Hi, Ava. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk about Conrad. I have some information you might find interesting. Can we meet for coffee?" She responded within an hour. "Who is this? What kind of information?" I sent her 3 screenshots of Conrad's messages to my wife, the ones where he called her baby and described what he wanted to do to her the next time they were alone together. My phone rang 2 minutes later. "Is this some kind of joke?" Ava's voice was sharp, professional, but I could hear the tremor underneath. "I wish it was. My name is Miles Harwood. Conrad is having an affair with my wife." There was a long silence. Then, "How long?" "At least 3 months, that I can prove. Probably longer. That bastard." Her voice cracked slightly. "That lying, cheating bastard. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you." "No, you're not sorry. You're pissed off, and you want revenge. Well, guess what? So do I. I liked Ava already." We met at a coffee shop downtown an hour later. She was smaller in person than she looked in photos, but her handshake was firm, and her eyes were the kind of cold blue that made me glad we were on the same side. "Show me everything," she said. I handed her my phone and watched her scroll through months of messages. Her expression never changed, but her grip on the device got tighter with each screen. "Son of a bitch," she muttered. "Look at this one. He's telling her about our vacation plans, our private vacation plans that he's apparently going to cancel to spend more time with your wife. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. This isn't your fault." She handed back my phone. "What's your plan?" "I'm still working on that." "Well, work faster, because I'm done with this shit." She pulled out her own phone and started typing furiously. What are you doing? Posting our breakup on Instagram, with receipts. Within minutes, she'd uploaded a series of screenshots showing Conrad's messages to Lila, along with a caption that read, "When your boyfriend of 2 years turns out to be a lying cheater. Ladies, Conrad Hale at Conrad's Fitness is single and ready to mingle. Because apparently, he's been mingling this whole time. Cheater, chacker, liar, done with. This." Jesus, I said, watching the likes and comments start pouring in. That's just the beginning. Ava's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Conrad's about to learn what happens when you mess with someone who knows how to leverage social media. My phone buzzed with a text from Lila. Something weird happened with my credit card. It got declined at lunch. Can you call the bank? I showed Ava the message. She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, this is going to be fun. By the time I got home that evening, Lila was in full panic mode. She'd tried 3 different cards, called the bank twice, and was pacing around our living room like a caged animal. Miles, thank God you're home. Something's wrong with our accounts. The bank says there's some kind of security hold, and they won't tell me anything because I'm not the primary account holder. That was technically true. I'd set up our accounts years ago, back when Lila was between jobs and hadn't cared about financial details. She'd been happy to let me handle the boring money stuff while she focused on building her career. Funny how that was working out for me now. I'll call them tomorrow, I said, loosening my tie. It's probably just a system glitch. Tomorrow? Miles, I need access to our money now. What if there's an emergency? What kind of emergency requires immediate access to our savings on a Tuesday night? She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Like she was starting to realize that boring, predictable Miles might not be as clueless as she'd thought. I don't like being cut off from our accounts. You're not cut off. I'm handling it. But what if something happens to you? What if I need what, Lila? Need money for another trip to see Conrad? The words were out before I could stop them. Lila went white, then red, then white again. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Conrad Hale, your high school boyfriend, the guy you've been screwing in hotel rooms for the past 3 months. She sank onto the couch like someone had cut her strings. Miles, I can explain. Can you? Because I'd love to hear how you explain telling your best friend that I'm boring and predictable while you plan a future with some guy who owns a gym and drives a financed BMW. You were listening to my conversation with Vera? I was listening to my wife plan to leave me for her high school boyfriend. Silly me, thinking I had a right to know. Lila started crying then, the kind of dramatic tears that had worked on me for years. Miles, please. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You're having an affair, you're planning to leave me, and you've been using our joint accounts to fund your little love nest. That's not true. I pulled out my phone and started reading her messages aloud. Can't wait to see you again, baby. These 3 weeks have been torture. I looked up at her. Should I keep going? How did you get those? Your tablet syncs to our cloud storage. Did you forget about that when you were setting up your secret love life? She buried her face in her hands. Oh, God. Yeah, oh, God. You want to know what else I found? Your boyfriend has a girlfriend. Had a girlfriend. Ava Morrison. Real estate agent. Great social media presence. She found out about you this afternoon. Lila's head snapped up. What? I showed her your messages. She was very grateful for the information. Posted some interesting stuff on Instagram. Conrad's probably seeing it right about now. As if on cue, Lila's phone started ringing. She looked at the screen, and I could see Conrad's name flashing. Answer it, I said. I'd love to hear how he explains this to you. She declined the call, but it immediately started ringing again. Miles, please, we can work this out. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We? There's no we anymore, Lila. You made sure of that when you decided to audition for your replacement marriage? Don't say that. I love you. No, you don't. You love our joint bank account and the stability I provide. You love having someone to pay the bills while you play house with your high school fantasy. Her phone was buzzing constantly now. Text messages, missed calls, Instagram notifications. Conrad's world was probably imploding in real time, and he was trying to figure out how it had all gone wrong so fast. What do you want from me? Lila asked. I want you to pack a bag and get out of my apartment. Your apartment? This is our home, Miles. Check the lease. My name, my credit, my deposit. You've been living here as my guest for the past 8 years. That wasn't entirely true, but it was close enough. I'd signed the lease before we got married, and we'd never bothered to add her name. Another one of those boring financial details she hadn't cared about. You can't just kick me out. I can, and I am. You've got until Sunday to find somewhere else to live. Where am I supposed to go? I hear Conrad's looking at a nice 2-bedroom downtown. Maybe you can speed up that timeline. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Who are you? This isn't like you, Miles. You're right. The old Miles would have begged you to stay, would have asked what he did wrong and how he could fix it, would have blamed himself for not being exciting enough to keep his wife interested. I stood up and straightened my tie. But the old Miles didn't know he was married to a cheating liar. The new Miles is a quick learner. I left her sitting on the couch with her buzzing phone and went to my office. I had calls to make and plans to finalize. If Lila thought this was bad, she was going to hate what came next. The next morning, I woke up to find Lila's side of the bed empty. For a moment, I thought she might have actually left. Then I heard her in the kitchen, making coffee like it was any other day. Good morning, she said when I appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was dressed for work and trying to act normal. Is it? Miles, we need to talk about this like adults. I made a mistake, but you made a choice. Multiple choices over multiple months. That's not a mistake, Lila. That's a pattern. Fine, I made bad choices, but we can get past this. Couples survive affairs all the time. Couples where both people want to save the marriage, maybe. You don't want to save our marriage. You want to save your financial security. She flinched. That's not fair. Neither is sleeping with your high school boyfriend while your husband pays for the hotel rooms. My phone buzzed with a text from Hannah, my assistant at work. Did you see the news about that gym owner? It's all over social media. I showed Lila the message. Looks like Conrad's having a rough morning. She grabbed her phone and started scrolling frantically. I could see her face getting paler with each swipe. Oh my God, Ava posted everything. The messages, the photos. Everyone can see this. That's what happens when you mess with someone who knows how to use Instagram. This will ruin him, his business, his reputation. Probably. But hey, at least you'll have each other. She looked up at me with something like horror. You planned this. You orchestrated all of this. I responded to it. There's a difference. You're destroying our lives. No, Lila. You destroyed our life. I'm just making sure everyone knows who did the destroying. She gathered her things and headed for the door, then stopped. This isn't over, Miles. Yes, it is. You just haven't accepted it yet. After she left, I poured myself a cup of coffee and opened my laptop. Time to move to phase 2 of my plan. I had a reputation to rebuild and a future to secure. And if Conrad Hale thought his problems were bad now, he was about to discover what happened when you tried to steal from someone who made his living reading the fine print. The beauty of modern technology is how quickly information spreads. By Wednesday afternoon, Ava's Instagram post had been shared 300 times, and Conrad's fitness was getting the kind of reviews that would make a restaurant owner weep. Terrible owner, even worse person, read one. Don't trust this guy with your money or your girlfriend. Conrad Hale is a lying cheater who hits on married women. Save your money and go somewhere else. 1 star is too generous for this scumbag. I was scrolling through the comments during my lunch break when Hannah knocked on my office door. "Hey boss, you've got a visitor." Before I could ask who, Vera pushed past Hannah into my office. Lila's best friend looked like she hadn't slept in days, and her usually perfect makeup was smudged around her eyes. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. "Do we?" "Miles, you have to stop this. Lila is falling apart." "That's unfortunate. She's my best friend. I can't watch her destroy her life over some stupid mistake." "Stupid mistake?" I leaned back in my chair. "Vera, your best friend has been having an affair for months. You knew about it. You encouraged it. You sat in my living room and helped her plan it." "I never encouraged." "You called it exciting. Said it was like a movie. You were living vicariously through her betrayal of my marriage." Vera had the grace to look ashamed. "I didn't think it through." "No, you didn't. You thought it was fun and romantic and consequence-free. Well, surprise. Actions have consequences." "But this is too much, Miles. You're destroying Conrad's business, his whole life." Conrad made the choice to pursue a married woman. He knew she had a husband. He knew what he was doing. But his girlfriend, Ava, she's posting horrible things about him. His customers are leaving. He might lose his gym. Again, consequences. If Conrad wanted to keep his gym and his girlfriend, he shouldn't have been screwing my wife. Vera sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. "What do you want, Miles? What will it take for you to call off your attack dogs?" "I don't have any attack dogs. I have an ex-girlfriend who's rightfully pissed off, and a bunch of strangers who don't like cheaters. I'm not controlling any of this." "But you started it." "No, Vera. Lila started it when she decided our marriage wasn't worth her fidelity. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. She wants to come home. She wants to work things out. Then she should have thought of that before she started planning her exit strategy with Conrad." "She loves you, Miles." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "She loves my bank account and my stability. There's a difference." Vera left without another word, and I went back to my computer. I had work to do and plans to finalize. That evening, I came home to find Lila waiting in the lobby of my building. She looked terrible, pale, thin, like she hadn't eaten in days. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Miles, please, can we just talk?" "We talked. You chose Conrad. How's that working out for you?" "He won't return my calls. His phone goes straight to voicemail. Maybe he's busy trying to save his business. This is all falling apart. Everything is falling apart. Welcome to consequences, Lila. Population, you." "I quit my job," she said suddenly. "That stopped me cold." "What?" "I couldn't take it anymore. Everyone was staring at me, whispering. Someone printed out Ava's Instagram post and left it on my desk. My boss called me into his office and asked if there was anything he should know about my business trips. And? I panicked. I told him I needed some time off to deal with personal issues, and he suggested I might want to make it permanent time off. Jesus. I'd expected social embarrassment, maybe some workplace awkwardness. I hadn't expected her to torpedo her own career. "So you quit?" I resigned. Effective immediately. "Lila, that was stupid. You need income. You need health insurance. I need my husband to forgive me and let me come home. That's not going to happen." She started crying again, right there in the lobby. Big, messy tears that drew stares from the other residents coming and going. "Miles, please. I have nowhere to go. No job, no money, no friends. Vera won't even talk to me anymore." "Why not?" "Because I told her this was all her fault for encouraging me. I said some things. We had a fight." So she'd burned that bridge too. Lila had always been good at making bad situations worse. "What about Conrad? I thought you two were planning a future together. He says he needs time to think. Says this whole situation is too complicated and he needs space to figure things out." Translation. Conrad had realized that dating a married woman was fun and exciting, but being publicly exposed as a cheater was bad for business. He was cutting his losses and running. "I'm sorry this is hard for you," I said, and I almost meant it. "But it doesn't change anything. We're done, Lila. We were done the moment you decided to cheat." "But I love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love what I represent. Security, stability, someone to pay the bills while you figure out what you really want. But you don't love me, the actual person. If you did, you never would have started this." I left her crying in the lobby and went upstairs to my apartment. Our apartment. My apartment now. I poured myself a drink and sat on the couch, thinking about the past week. A week ago, I'd been a boring, predictable husband who analyzed financial reports and made pancakes on Sunday mornings. Now I was a man who'd systematically destroyed his wife's affair and her lover's business using nothing but the truth and social media. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt like the end of something that had been fading for a long time. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Conrad. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, "No, we don't. Please, this has gone too far. I never meant for anyone to get hurt." "You meant to hurt me. You just didn't expect to get caught." "Can we meet? Just to talk?" I thought about it. Part of me was curious to see the man who'd thought he could steal my wife. Part of me wanted to look him in the eye and see what 8 years of marriage was worth to him. "Tomorrow, 6 p.m., Murphy's Bar on 5th Street. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Murphy's Bar was the kind of place where middle-aged men went to drink away their problems and pretend they were still young. Dark wood, dim lighting, and a bartender who minded his own business. It was perfect for the conversation I was about to have. I arrived early and chose a table in the back corner where we could talk without being overheard. I was nursing my second beer when Conrad Hale walked in. He was smaller than I'd expected. Still handsome in that aging jock way, but there was something defeated about his posture. His clothes were expensive but wrinkled, like he'd been sleeping in them. He looked around the bar nervously before spotting me. "Miles?" I nodded toward the empty chair across from me. "Conrad." He sat down and immediately started talking. "Look, I want you to know that I never intended for things to go this far. Lila and we have history, but I never meant to destroy your marriage. You just meant to sleep with my wife. The marriage destruction was an unintended consequence." He flinched. "It wasn't like that." "What was it like, Conrad? Help me understand how you accidentally ended up screwing a married woman in hotel rooms for 3 months. "We reconnected on Facebook, just innocent catching up at first, but then we started talking more, and all these old feelings came back. So you decided to act on them. She said she was unhappy, said you two had grown apart." "And you believed her?" "I wanted to believe her." He ran his hands through his hair. "Look, I know how this looks. I know I'm the bad guy here, but I genuinely cared about Lila." "Cared about her enough to plan a future with her while you were still living with your girlfriend?" "That's complicated." "No, it's not. It's simple. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. You wanted the excitement of an affair without the responsibility of an actual relationship." Conrad was quiet for a moment, staring at his hands. "Ava and we'd been having problems for a while. I thought maybe it was time to end things anyway. So you used my wife as your exit strategy." "It wasn't like that." "Sure it was. You were bored with your relationship, so you went looking for something new and exciting. Lila was convenient, married, unhappy, willing to sneak around. Perfect for a guy who wanted to feel young again without actually committing to anything. You don't understand?" "I understand perfectly. You're a middle-aged man who owns a gym and drives a car he can't afford. You peaked in high school, and you've been chasing that feeling ever since. My wife represented your glory days, when you were the football star and she was the cheerleader. Conrad's face was getting red. You don't know anything about me. I know you're about to lose your business because your customers don't want to give their money to a guy who cheats on his girlfriend and breaks up marriages. I know Ava cleaned out your apartment and posted the pictures on Instagram. I know Lila won't return your calls because she's finally figured out that you're not going to rescue her from the mess she made. That's enough. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're the one who's lost everything. Your girlfriend, your reputation, probably your business. All for a few months of hotel connection with someone else's wife. Conrad stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You think you're so smart, don't you? Sitting there with your spreadsheets and your analysis, acting like you're better than everyone else. I don't think I'm better than everyone else, just better than you. You know what your problem is, Miles? You're boring. You're safe and predictable and boring, and that's why Lila came looking for something else. Maybe, but boring and predictable doesn't cheat on his wife. Boring and predictable doesn't lie to his girlfriend for months. Boring and predictable doesn't destroy his own life chasing some high school fantasy. Screw you. No, Conrad. Screw you. You tried to steal my wife, and now you're mad because there were consequences. Well, here's a news flash. Actions have consequences. You made your choices, and now you get to live with them. He stood there for a moment, breathing hard, looking like he wanted to take a swing at me. I almost hoped he would. It would give me an excuse to have him arrested for assault. Instead, he turned and walked out of the bar without another word. I finished my beer and headed home, feeling oddly empty. The confrontation I'd been building up to for days had been anticlimactic. Conrad wasn't a master manipulator or a smooth-talking villain. He was just a middle-aged man who'd made some very bad choices and was now paying the price. Just like Lila. When I got back to my apartment, I found her waiting in the hallway outside my door. She was sitting on the floor with her back against the wall, a suitcase beside her. The hotel kicked me out, she said without looking up. My credit card was declined. You should have gotten a job before you quit your old one. I can't get a job. Every time I go to an interview, they Google my name and find Ava's posts. Do you know what it's like to have the first search result for your name be about what a cheating whore you are? I unlocked my door and stepped inside. She followed me without being invited. This has to stop, Miles. You've made your point. I've lost everything. My job, my friends, my reputation. Conrad won't talk to me. Vera hates me. I'm homeless and broke, and everyone in town knows what I did. Good. Good? How is any of this good? Because now you know what it feels like to have your life destroyed by someone you trusted. Now you know what it's like to be betrayed and humiliated and left with nothing. I get it, okay? I understand that I hurt you, but this is enough. This is too much. Is it? Because I don't think it's nearly enough. I think you should have to live with the consequences of your choices for a very long time. She stared at me like I was a stranger. What happened to you? You used to be kind. You used to be forgiving. I used to be a lot of things. I used to be married to someone I thought loved me. I used to trust my wife. I used to believe that boring and predictable were good things, that they meant stability and commitment. You changed all of that. I made a mistake. Stop calling it a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, Lila. It was a choice. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie. You chose to plan a future with another man while you were married to me. You chose all of it, and now you get to live with the consequences. So what happens now? You just leave me with nothing? You left yourself with nothing. I'm just not cleaning up your mess anymore. She sat down heavily on my couch, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. For a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with her. The bright smile, the infectious laugh, the way she used to make me feel like the most important person in the world. But that person was gone. Had been gone for months, maybe years. The woman sitting on my couch was a stranger who happened to look like my wife. I'll give you one night. I said finally. You can sleep on the couch tonight, but tomorrow you need to find somewhere else to go. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Lila, and for the first time in 8 years, that's not my problem to solve. I went to bed that night listening to her cry in the living room. I should have felt guilty, should have felt sorry for her, should have wanted to comfort her like I had so many times before. Instead, I felt nothing at all. The next morning, I woke up to find her gone. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. I'm sorry for everything. I know you'll never forgive me, but I want you to know that I did love you. I just lost my way. I read it twice, then threw it in the trash. 3 weeks later, I heard through Hannah that Lila had moved back in with her parents in Phoenix. Conrad's gym had closed, and he'd left town owing money to half the vendors in the city. Ava had started dating a lawyer and seemed very happy in her Instagram posts. I was sitting in my office, reviewing quarterly reports, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hi, Miles. This is Ava. I wanted to thank you for everything. I know it probably doesn't feel like it, but you saved me from wasting any more time on a loser. I owe you a drink sometime. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, You don't owe me anything. We both just got lucky enough to find out the truth before it was too late. Still, if you ever want to grab coffee and compare notes on what it's like to date terrible people, let me know. I smiled for the first time in weeks. I might take you up on that. I hope you do. You seem like one of the good ones. I put my phone away and went back to my reports. Outside my office window, the city hummed with life and possibility. Somewhere out there, people were falling in love and breaking up and making the same mistakes humans had been making for thousands of years. But for the first time in months, that felt like someone else's problem. I was Miles Harwood. I was 45 years old. I analyzed financial portfolios for a living, and I was very good at spotting when the numbers didn't add up. And for the first time in a very long time, my numbers were looking pretty good.